Second quarter, Georgia 10, Auburn 7, 5:45. Georgia's found something new that's working. Quick throws to the outside. Sonny Michel demonstrates here, leading to what appeared to be a TD pass, though it was called back for what the officials felt to be pick play. Dogs settled for field goal. Tied at 7-8, 33. It's Ugas' turn to own the trenches. For a change, the second quarters belong to the Dogs so far, with Jarrett Stidham facing pressure throughout a 3-and-out. Auburn 7, Georgia 7, 10, 14. Mecole Hardman, Ugas' lone ball mover during long stretches of round 1, converted a first down and then took another catch for 34 yards to finally get the Dogs into Auburn territory. The Dogs didn't waste the chance, with Jake Fromm finding Isaac Nauta at the goal line to tie it up. Auburn 7, Georgia 0, 13, 13. Jarrett Stidham held onto a ball in the red zone a little bit long, and a forced fumble by Davin Bellamy turned a sure field goal into UGA ball. First quarter, Auburn 7, Georgia 0, end. An Auburn drive has been prolonged by a foul for driving Jarrett Stidham into the ground. Nobody really liked the call. Auburn 7, Georgia 0, 4:30. Georgia won its first drive, snuffing out a Kerryon Johnson screen and getting the punt at its own 30. Auburn 7, Georgia 0, 7:15. Well, Ugas' opening drive looked like a fifth quarter of the first game between these two. Tigers were in Jake Fromm's aura repeatedly, sacking him twice and forcing a punt from midfield. Auburn 7, Georgia 0, 9:54. Auburn spent most of the first half in round 1 kicking field goals. Not this time. The 10-play drive involved 5 first downs, 1 via penalty, and ended with a 6-yard zap up the middle from Jarrett Stidham to Nate Craig-Myers. SEC Championship Preview by Bill Connolly. It all began so well when Auburn and Georgia played at Jordan-Hare Stadium 3 weeks ago. The Bulldogs got the ball first and drove 70 yards in 8 plays for an easy touchdown. They faced only 1 third down, and freshman quarterback Jake Fromm completed passes of 28 and 26 yards. Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb took it from there. It was easy to see the first battle between these teams as a race to 24 points or so. Georgia's offense had been inefficient but more than productive enough to hand a decent point total over to a defense that had only once given up more than 19 points. Auburn's offense had been all or nothing, having averaged 40 points per game in wins and 17 per game in losses since the start of 2015. In losses to Clemson and LSU earlier this fall, they scored 0 second-half points. Technically, it was a race to 24. Only one team got there more easily than anticipated. When Georgia scored so easily out of the gates and Auburn could manage only 3 field goals in early scoring chances, it was easy to feel like the Dogs had the game where they wanted it. In theory, Auburn was only going to be able to create so many chances. But then Jarrett Stidham connected with Darius Slayton for a 42-yard score to make it 16-7 late in the first half, and Georgia's Rodrigo Blankenship missed a 42-yard field goal, and Mecole Hardman fumbled a punt return early in the second half. Auburn scored to go up 23-7, then 30-7, then 33-10. Then 40-10. After starting 3 for 3 for 56 yards, Fromm completed just 7 of his next 21 passes for 103 yards and 4 sacks. Chubb and Michel finished with 48 yards and 20 carries. Once the avalanche began, the Dogs had no idea how to stop it. They lost their composure and got blown out. The good news for UGA is, things change, because there are no best-of-7 series. We think of single football games as referendums. Auburn beat Georgia. Therefore, Auburn is better than Georgia and will therefore beat Georgia again. Luckily for the Dogs, that doesn't have to be the case. We don't get many rematches. But when do, the second result is often quite different than the first. So what specifically went wrong for the Dogs on the Plains? And how likely are they to find a solution? 1. The freshman looked like a freshman. But it wasn't really his fault. You never know when it will happen. You just know that it will. Fromm has been incredible for most of the season. He has a 185.5 passer rating on first downs, when opponents are distracted by the run, and he has a 187.0 rating on third downs. On 3rd and 4 or more semi-obvious passing situations, he's 37 for 64 for 656 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 175.8 rating. That's impossibly good, and there was bound to be some regression to the mean. Against Auburn on 3rd and 4 or more, Fromm was 4 for 10 for 100 yards and 2 big sacks for a loss of 21. And honestly, gaining a net 79 yards on 12 pass attempts against Auburn in those situations isn't bad. But 28 of those yards came on the first 3rd and long of the game. His next 5 produced 1 completion and 2 sacks. And by the time he found a rhythm, the Dogs were down 23. It's easy to say a key is him improving in those situations. But really, the key will be avoiding them. Auburn ranks 2nd in FBS in passing downs S&P+. Maybe Fromm can do a little better. But the Tigers are only going to give you so many mulligans. To move the ball, the Dogs are going to have to get much better on first down. That might be the only way to keep pressure off of him. He was pressured on nearly 40% of his attempts. UGA gained 34 yards in 4 first down plays on the opening scoring drives, then gained 33 yards on 6 first down snaps in a late garbage time TD drive. In between 14 plays, 15 yards. Every drive basically began on 2nd and 9. That's not going to cut it. Be it either with better early down passing from was sacked on first downs, 2 or, simply, better run blocking. Georgia has to avoid 2nd and longs if it wants to avoid its QB running for his life on 3rd and long. That might not mean a complete overhaul in tactics, but it will definitely have to involve better execution. 2. Auburn's short passing game broke the Georgia defense. On Auburn's first scoring drive, the Tigers gained 13 yards on a pass to Nate Craig Myers in the flat and 7 on a screen to Ryan Davis. Third scoring drive, Jarrett Stidham completed a screen to Eli Stove for 19 yards and a pass to Chandler Cox in the flat for 17. Fourth scoring drive, and first TD, they completed a screen to Ryan Davis for 11 yards and a screen to Kerryon Johnson for 11 before going deep to Darius Slayton. Up 23-7 in the third quarter, the Tigers put the game away with a 32-yard screen pass to Davis. Johnson took the headlines with his 32-carry, 167-yard performance against the Dogs. But Auburn's masterful creation of space for its receivers was, to me, what won both the Georgia and Alabama games. Versus UGA, it appeared the Dogs were very much preoccupied with the run. So Gus Malzahn and offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey constantly used their momentum against them. They are in an incredible play-calling rhythm right now, showing exactly how you can use one advantage, in this case, Johnson's strong running, to create 3 more. Perhaps Johnson's shoulder injury gives the Dogs an opportunity. He is listed as probable, so one would expect him to play. But perhaps he will be in less shape to carry 30-plus times. Or at least do it well. So maybe Georgia plays a little wider, willing to give Johnson some early yards in the name of stopping the deadly short passes. Kirby Smart's coached in a lot of huge games in his lifetime. He'll come up with something. But Malzahn and Linz might have the answer to that, too. A team that loses Game 1 in the NBA playoffs doesn't automatically get swept. A tennis player who drops the first set 6-2 sometimes wins the second. Georgia looked lost in the second half of the loss at Auburn. But in Atlanta, the Dogs will have a chance to atone for their worst performance of the year. It's hard to forget that Auburn caused that performance, though. How S&P Plus picks it. Georgia 26, plus 2.5. Auburn 25. Here's your reminder that analytics look at the whole season. They don't care how overwhelmed Georgia's offensive line and quarterback became against Auburn's defensive front. For that matter, they don't care about Johnson's shoulder injury. All S&P Plus sees is that, over the course of 12 games each, Georgia graded out as the slightly better team. We'll see how much context ends up mattering.